Ever wonder what the cell membrane is made of, or how it functions and works in order to perform its tasks? Well, allow us to take you through an in-depth analysis of these topics.
Nick Webb, the science guy.
The cell membrane is a semi-permeable membrane that surrounds the cytoplasm of a cell. The membrane contains a phospholipid bilayer that is made up of a bunch of empathetic phospholipid molecules. The word empathetic is used to describe a molecule that is made up of a bunch of hydrophilic and hydrophobic parts, which is exactly what the phospholipid molecules are. The phospholipid molecules that make up the phospholipid bilayer are composed of two parts, hydrophilic heads and hydrophobic tails. The hydrophilic heads are polar, which means that they are attracted to water. And on the other hand, the hydrophobic tails are non-polar, which means they are scared of water. The hydrophilic heads are on the exterior of the membrane, while the tails are in the interior, facing towards each other. Here is what these hydrophobic tails and hydrophilic heads look like. Also located on the outside of the cell membrane are the integral proteins, right here. They are typically embedded into the phospholipid bilayer. Integral proteins have many important functions with the cell membrane and is responsible for channeling or transporting molecules across the membrane. Integral proteins are classified as being transmembrane, meaning that they function and span across the entirety of the cell membrane. This means that integral proteins function as gateways to permit the transport of specific substances through the whole membrane. Peripheral proteins are located on the surface of the cell membrane, right here. As the peripheral proteins are the specific sequence of amino acids that they contain that allows them to attract phosphate heads of the phospholipid molecules. Peripheral proteins are capable of attaching and detaching itself from the cell membrane, and it does not make its way into the hydrophobic section of the cell membrane like the integral proteins did. Peripheral proteins have many functions when it comes to the cell membrane, as they are capable of providing support. Peripheral proteins are also used as ways of communication, as they are capable of passing messages to the integral proteins, allowing the message to be sent inside of the cell. On top of the many different parts of the cell membrane, we have cholesterol of the cell membrane, which is capable of being inserted into the phospholipid bilayer of the cell membrane due to its polar hydroxyl group attaching to the phospholipid's head group. Cholesterol plays a role in the fluidity of the cell membrane, but its most important function is its ability to reduce the permeability of the cell membrane. Due to this, cholesterol is able to help restrict the passage of molecules into the cell membrane by increasing the packing of phospholipids, therefore leaving a minimum amount of space for gases and liquids to squeeze through the phospholipid bilayer. Over here we have the glycoprotein, which are also always found on the outside surface of the phospholipid bilayer, as their hydrophilic nature allows them to function and perform tasks better in an aqueous environment, right here. Glycoproteins play big roles in the function of the structure, reproduction, and the immune system protection of the cell membrane. The cell membrane structure and parts are very interesting to visualize and learn about, especially our personal favorite, the phospholipid bilayer, because it reminds us of a trampoline. Fortunately, those are not the only interesting parts of the cell membrane, as the membrane still carries with a wide range of functions that all play big roles in the cell membrane. One way the cell functions is as a junction between cells. This is a way for cell tissues to be joined together or to be able to transport material between two cells. There are a couple different types of junctions that can be used. First, they can be a communicating junction. These junctions allow cells to transport materials between cells. They do this by allowing small molecules to pass through from one cell to another. Another way that this is an impermeable junction. This junction combines the cell membrane to hold it together. However, this means that the cells can't pass materials through to each other. The final type is an adhering junction. This type of junction is a simple mechanical fastening between two cells. This allows them to be held together without limiting the cell's ability to pass material through. Enzymes in the cell membrane are very similar to the enzymes of the cytoplasm. These enzymes assist in turning molecules into form another molecule. Transport protein helps the cells with moving materials out or into the cell. They can do this through either facilitated diffusion, where the protein just creates a hole for material to pass through, or through active transport, where the cell uses up energy to move materials and substances out of the cell. Recognition is when the cell can distinguish themselves from other cells. It also is the cell's ability to determine the difference between different neighboring cells. Anchorage proteins are lipid-anchored proteins that sit on the surface of the cell membrane and have a bond with other lipids that are rooted deep within the actual cell membrane. Signal transduction can also happen. Cell plasma membranes, as well as other intercellular membranes, contain special membrane receptors. A ligand must pass through the plasma membrane by passive diffusion. It binds with the receptor and passes into the nuclear membrane.